Stonefalls Lore, Part 1. Ancestors and the Dhamma, abridged. Ghosts walk among them. The departed spirits of the Dunmeri, and perhaps those of all races, persist after death. The knowledge and power of the departed ancestors benefit the bloodlines of the Dunmeri houses. The bond that forms between living family members and their immortal ancestors is partly blood, partly ritual, partly volitional. Anyone brought into a house through marriage is bound through ritual and oath into the clan, gaining communication and benefits from the clan's ancestors. However, his access to the ancestors is less than that of his offspring, and he still retains some access to the ancestors of his own bloodline. The family shrine. Each residence has a family shrine. In poorer homes, it may be no more than a hearth or an alcove, where the family relics are displayed and venerated. In wealthy homes, a room is set aside for the use of the ancestors. This shrine is called the Waiting Door and represents the door to oblivion. Here, the family members pay their respects to their ancestors through sacrifice and prayer, through oaths sworn upon duties, and through reports on the affairs of family. In return, the family may receive information, training, and blessings from family's ancestors. The ancestors are thus the protectors of the home, and especially in the precincts of the Waiting Door. The mortal chill. Spirits do not like to visit the mortal world, and they do so only out of duty and obligation. Spirits tell us that the other world is more pleasant, or at least more comfortable for the spirits than our real world, which is cold, bitter, and full of pain and loss. Mad spirits. Spirits that are forced to remain in our world against their will may become mad spirits, or ghosts. Some spirits are bound to this world because of some terrible circumstance of their death, or because of some powerful emotional bond to a person, place, or thing. These are called hauntings. Some spirits are captured and bound to enchanted items by wizards. If the binding is involuntary, the spirit usually goes mad. A willing spirit may or may not retain its sanity, depending on the strength of the spirit and the wisdom of the enchanter. Some spirits are bound against their wills to protect family shrines. This unpleasant fate is reserved for those who have not served the family faithfully in life. Dutiful and honorable ancestor spirits often aid in the capture and the binding of these wayward ones. These spirits usually go mad and make terrifying guardians. They are ritually prevented from harming mortals of their clans, but that does not necessarily discourage them from being both mischievous or peevish behavior. They are exceedingly dangerous for intruders. At the same time, if an intruder can penetrate the spirit's madness and play upon the spirit's resentment of its own clan, the angry spirits may be manipulated. Oblivion. The existence of oblivion is acknowledged by all Tamriel cultures, but there is little agreement on the nature of that other world, other than it is a place where Daedra live, and that communication and travel are possible between this world and oblivion through magics and ritual. The Dhamma do not emphasize the distinction between this world and oblivion, as do the human cultures of Tamriel. They regard our world and the other world as a whole within many paths from one end to the other, rather than two separate worlds of different natures with distinct borders. This philosophical viewpoint may account for the greater affinity of elves for magic and its practices. Foreign views of Dunmeri ancestor worship and spirit magic. The Altmeri and Bosmeri cultures also venerate their ancestors, but only by respecting the orderly and blissful passage of these spirits from this world to the next. That is, wood elves and high elves believe that it is cruel and unnatural to encourage the spirits of the dead to linger in our world. Even more grotesque and repugnant is the display of the bodily remains of ancestors in ghost fences and ash pits. The presentation of finger bones in a family shrine, for example, is sacrilegious to the Bosma, who eat their dead, and barbaric to the Ultima, who inter the ashes of their dead. The human cultures of Tamriel are ignorant and fearful of dark elves and their culture. considering them to be inhumane and evil, like orcs and Argonians, but more sophisticated. The human population of Tamriel associate the Dunmerry ancestor worship and spirit magic with necromancy. In fact, this association of the Dark Elves with necromancy is at least partially responsible for the dark reputation of the Dunmer throughout Tamriel. This is generally an ignorant misconception, but necromancy outside the acceptable clan rituals is a most abhorrent abomination in the eyes of the Dunmer. The Dark Elves would never think of practicing sorcerer's necromancy upon any Dark Elf, or upon the remains of any elf. However, Dark Elves consider the human and the orcish races to be little more than animals. There is no injunction against necromancy upon such remains, or on the remains of any animal, bird, or insect. Guide to the Ebonheart Pact. The Ebonheart Pact has forged an unlikely alliance between the far-flung nations of Morrowind, Skyrim, and Blackmarsh, bringing together the Dark Elves, Nords, and Free Argonians for their mutual defense. Thanks to the size of its allied nations, the distances involved, the Pact remains relatively free of inner strife and discord. The Nords and the Dark Elves have so much of their own territory to deal with, they have little time to spare for meddling in each other's affairs. The Ebonheart Pact came about in Second Era 572 in response to the Second Akaviri invasion of northern Tamriel. The Nords, Dark Elves, and Free Argonians joined forces to save the rest of Tamriel from slaughter and subjugation. Forged in war, the alliance brought a sudden new power to the continent. At first, few believed the Dark Elves would be able to maintain an alliance with their ancient blood enemies and former slaves, but after a troubled decade, the Pact remained strong and intact. A great moot governs the Pact. This council of equals from each of the member races is not only known for hot tempers and loud voices, but also for mutual respect and amazing will to holding the Pact together against all odds. Only as equals can the allies hope to mollify the pride of the Nords and the Dark Elves, while addressing the injuries suffered by the once enslaved Argonians. Serving as an integral, perhaps even critical part of the alliance, the Dark Elves of Morrowind are aloof, proud, and profoundly strange. They work hard to conceal their disdain for their inferior allies, but the current crisis requires the strong arms of the Nords and the wily resourcefulness of the Argonians to keep their rival alliances at bay. Wizardly craft and a deep well of experience serve the Dark Elves well, providing the Pact with the vital ability to react and adapt, something neither the Ardmeri Dominion nor the Daggerfall Covenant can claim to do as well. The Pact fields superior warriors and sorcerers, and they possess an asset that no other race can match: 3 living gods. Almalexia, Vivek, and Sothasil abide among them. The Nords of Eastern Skyrim are fearless and aggressive, industrious and enterprising. They excel at war and prosper in trade, and they are without equal as explorers and trailblazers. Strong, stubborn, and hardy, they customarily solve problems through combat. Nords cheerfully rush into battle with a ferocity that frightens and appalls their enemies. They accept and even revel in their role as shock troops for the Ebonheart Pact. Nords are direct, not subtle. They champion simple solutions in the meetings of the Great Moot, although they are often outvoted by the shrewd Argonians and sagacious Dark Elves. On the field of battle, however, they have no equals. Pact generals tend to be Nords, as are most of the soldiers in the field. The Nords don't mind. This means they also get first choice of the spoils of war. By their decisive intervention against the Akaviri, the Argonians of Blackmarsh won their freedom from Dark Elf enslavement, and the lessons they learned have made them a valuable member of the Pact. Reserved and alien, their expressionless faces and flat intonations often make it difficult for other races to interpret their true motives. Nevertheless, the Argonians possess a cool intelligence, slow to trust and hard to know. Their natural agility makes them comfortable employing magics, as they are using stealth and steel. Years of defending their borders have made them experts in waging war against stronger, more traditionally organized armies. Equally at home on land or in water, they serve as scouts and skirmishers for Pact forces. Other aspects of Argonian culture are nearly incomprehensible to outsiders, including their social hierarchy and collective decision-making. Their representatives present strange proposals without explanation, but their allies have learned that there's always a reason for everything they do. Today, the young Yoren the Skull King serves as the acting High King of the Moot, but not all in the Alliance support him. As the members of the Pact struggle to maintain and solidify their alliance, they must also deal with internal threats to each of their nations. Unsolved, these threats could destroy them before they ever face the Dominion or Covenant in open battle. I hope you've been enjoying these lore readings, and if you have, please do consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.